Hi everyone, I'm so excited to welcome you all for the Microsoft Build 2020 recap on a weekend. Definitely, it requires a lot of passion towards learning and sharing. And my special thanks to all the speakers who accepted our invitation and agreed to spend their weekend with us. A special thanks to Deepak who helped us to get in touch with many of the speakers. And today's special about the event is it is full of women leaders who is going to share their knowledge with us. And this is going to be the first of its kind, at least in India, I guess. Considering the strict timelines, I welcome Annie to start the event with the keynote. And once again, I welcome you all for the wonderful event, and I assure we will learn new things today. Okay, thank you. Hi, Annie.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here at Build. Big kudos to the MVP team who have put this together. So I'll take the next 20-25 minutes to give you a sense of how Microsoft thinks about the current scenario, where technology could take us, and what you could, as a developer, do to make sure that our countries and nations are recovering and on fast growth to prosperity. Through the day, you will hear about how the Microsoft technologies actually empower you. I'll just quickly start with a little bit of introduction about me, so you know the context of where I come from. In a nutshell, the things that stand out for me are empowering small communities and developers to grow, women to achieve more. Healthcare is an area of passion. Startups, of course, and have fun while we are doing all of this. So a lot of what I speak coming up would see elements of this as well. The way we're looking at this currently, and we are living in different times, very different from what we imagined about 6 months back, if you will. And so it is all about the phases of respond, rebound, and reimagine. And we as developers have a role to play in each of those phases of a nation, or even look at it from your own perspective of how do you go through this this time period. And there are so many opportunities out there. So the first is about response, and this is about inventions born of necessity. And I'll talk a little bit in a while about how developer communities actually came together and invented stuff that helped economies and nations respond to this crisis. We've seen that in India, you've seen it in Chennai, I've seen it in Malaysia where I'm based, and all across. So as developers, this is time for us to lead or be team players or facilitators, but definitely partake in this opportunity to respond to this crisis. As you look at the future and reimagine the opportunities, think about lateral movements, global opportunities, and of course, being entrepreneur and creating those jobs, because jobs are definitely going to be different. If you look at, all of us are working from home, and customers, employees, organizations, everyone is kind of getting comfortable with this. Maybe in the last 2-3 months, we've had about 2-3 years worth of digital transformation that is happening. And that is good in a way, because everybody is now open to the idea of using digital technologies. What that means for us as developers and as people who are looking at this landscape is that you can now look differently. You can be sitting in Chennai and being part of a global organization. Or being elsewhere and working for Chennai. So these are global teams. They were already there, but now I think it's just accelerating at a very fast pace. Think about lateral opportunities. Almost every small and medium business or every large organization out there is by necessity going to have to get their digital experiences for the customer ready. Whether it's a small retail shop which had to take orders via a mobile app or a web app, or it's a large organization which had kind of a legacy web app which couldn't take that 1,000, 2,000 concurrent users. They had to reimagine that application. In any case, all that means is it has tremendous opportunity for developers and for technology to be leveraged. A quick look at some of the response that were very inspiring from across APAC. And I'm going to talk a little bit here about, on the top right, you see Dev Connect Philippines. So this was a community of developers which are already there, but over 600 developers came together to create 4 apps that Philippines needed. Rapid Pass, what you see here, is so contactless pass for vehicles and first responders. So this happened in the first probably 30 days, the application was out. And I know there are similar applications in Kerala, in India, and probably in Tamil Nadu as well. But the interesting thing here is that this is a huge community of developers, but they suddenly had leadership within the community who connected with the government, understood the requirement. And there was a Slack group where 600 odd developers would gather every night to work on this application. And they created 4, out of which I think 3 went live. On the left side here is Corona Tracker. This is from lead.ai. It's led by Dr. Shohan Lau. He runs a community of data scientists and developers across the world. Now 250 of them came together, and this is a worldwide tracker. This happened like in 15-20 days into the initial phase of tracking that Malaysia needed to do. And of course, this is a WHO approved application. But the most interesting thing for me here was the leader who kind of made sure that they're creating the application, but also connecting with WHO and the government, making sure this is used, as well as like developers from United States to Japan. It's a huge community of data scientists and developers who are doing this. And they're building further applications on top of it. At the bottom here is a lot of hackathons happened during this time. And one of them, which I was closely associated with, was a Folkwell Coronavirus Hackathon. And this was especially about COVID-related applications, but they went into areas of genomics and drug discovery and things like that. Again, 32 countries, people, 490 folks, developers participated in this. Phenomenal coming together of developers no longer are developers in a country, but it is like, it's a great unifying motion that and a spirit of response that was brought by the whole COVID-19 pandemic. India and Microsoft actually had built. This was the first massive large scale event. We had over 120,000 developers on build, 100 plus sessions. It was running 48 hours non-stop. And look at where we are now. We are doing a build recap powered by the Indian MVPs. There are 80 MVPs in India, and 5 of them are women MVPs. And I'm looking to see more and more women MVPs coming up there. But phenomenal work by the MVP community before and during and after build. I'm sure it will continue. So now let me take you back a little bit and then come back to the present and what we can do. I said earlier that we are, and you and I know that we are living in strange times. But interestingly, the humanity has gone through these cycles a couple of times. And this is 1905, and what you're seeing here is a Flatiron building on Broadway in New York. What do you see here? All horses, carriages, and that was the economy, powered by horses and carriages. There were about 100,000 families depending on horses, and and the business around that of maintaining the horses, running the carriages, cleaning up after, etc., etc. Cut to 1925. What do you see now? Automobiles. So the whole, in that 2-decade time, the whole economy changed, jobs changed, everything changed. What happened to those people who are building their lives around horses? Well, they all flourished, or the ones who actually took the opportunity to understand the trends and upskill and reskill and change found their way to prosperity. In fact, the economy prospered. From then on, it has been a great ride. This is a period when factory assembly model for cars happened. Ford started it, and then So the whole automobile industry got transformed, and so did a lot of other things, railways, steam engines came, and then railways happened, and a ton of inventions happened around this, and the whole ethos of how you work and how you live changed. We are kind of in a similar scenario. And it's not new, it's been there for some time, digital transformation. But what's happening now is that it's like digital transformation is on steroids. Everything that could have taken another 5 years will now happen in the next year. So this is huge opportunity. And a few things I would like to share here from the way to think about it from Microsoft perspective. So Microsoft has been working for digital transformation with numerous number of customers and partners. And some things we have learned from that. And it's good to kind of hone in on that a little bit. First off, it's a journey. It's not a master move. So creating, we need to get away from the thinking of that creating that one super app or a master app really is digital transformation. It is not. This is a journey, and hence it's about cultural transformation. It is about getting your fundamentals like data estate in place and then building on top of it and things like that. So first off, think about it as a journey. The second is that if you look at all the businesses from time immemorial, they have flourished because they focused on the value. So first off is value generation. The purpose of every digital transformation is to provide value to either a customer or employee or partners or suppliers, something like that. But value generation is at the core. And what that means is that people first. It's about people and what they need, the value that they need, and technology is an enabler. At some sense, we all knew this, but in spite of it, when we start thinking about, say, AI in our workplace, we suddenly think, oh, chatbots, or I need some digital assistants or something like that. Reverse that and start thinking people first. And we totally believe that it's a people first game and value first, then solutions. So when you talk about people, you are at the core of it as developer. And developer velocity is something that Microsoft is deeply passionate about. And everything that we do is about enabling you to develop more productively, more securely, and more collaboratively. Now, I will flip that and think about you as a person, as a developer today, and think of it this way. It's about thinking about value first. So we just spoke about it. It's about talking to your CEO or the business leaders and understanding what is that value that is possible, and bringing to them what technology can do and marry the two. So it cannot be done in isolations. Developers need to stop working in isolations within their technology area and start collaborating with business leaders, with customers, get the feedback, and think about the value first. So as a person, we can all do that. So that's the first thing. Think about value and how do you appropriate value from what you do in technology. And to do that well, you need to do two things. One is know the trends. So what's happening if you're still working on legacy platforms and you're not aware that there's something you can leverage today that half the world is already leveraging, like say, for example, VS Code. Millions of developers are using VS Code, whatever is the platform or technology they're working on. VS Code is still the home for a lot of app development. So are you aware of that? Have you tried it? So know the trends and know that as we pass through these phases of COVID response, know what kind of jobs are coming up, know what kind of skills are required, and hence go for that. So that brings you to then skill continuously. It's no longer a 4-year engineering degree. It is now a 50-year degree. You continue learning and upskilling throughout your lifetime, which is very interesting. It gives you hope, right? You're never going to be outdated if you have the urge in you to learn and upskill. So this is our mission. It's empowering you to achieve more. It's about empowering every person on the planet to achieve more. Now, interestingly, about 80% of the requirement for development or digital transformation is unmet. There are not enough engineers and developers out there to meet that need. And that essentially means that we need to embrace a lot more people in this journey of digital transformation. When you are sitting inside the technology team or the engineering team of your organization, it's time for you to start thinking about how can I move more of the development closer to the edge or closer to the users. And this is Microsoft's response to that. For citizen developers we define as folks who are not coding. So they could be tech savvy, but they are not coders. It could be your program managers, it could be your business analyst or your line of business head, whoever that is. And our response to that is Power Automate, Power Apps, and Power Virtual Agents. This is a Power Platform which is superb. If you have not tried this before, please go and try it. It's like an app in a day. It's just drag and drop UI and helps you create a mobile application. Now that doesn't mean it is not for the professional developer. Professional developer and the whole engineering team is still required to make sure that is done securely within the guidelines. And so while you extend capability to create some of those mobile apps to the line of business people, you will still need to maintain architecture, solutioning, and in some sense, security and governance of it. Solutioning is at the other end, but security and governance is still very much within you. So this is a very interesting space, and please do explore that. I'll talk about a couple of trends and some things that have excited me from Build very quickly. So customer environments are increasingly complex. Thousands of apps, diverse infrastructure, multi-cloud, right? So the question on top of your mind of the CIO, CTO, CEO, and of course should be top of your mind too is how best to enable innovation and developer agility, right? How do you govern and operate these disparate environments at scale? How do we ensure integrated security across the entire organization? So this requires a lot of platform capabilities, and that's where Microsoft comes to help you out. So the Azure hybrid is one thing, innovation anywhere with Azure, right? What does that mean? It means to give you the power for management, security, data services, and dev tools that cut across from the edge, which is all the devices you have. It could be the fridge, the door, it could be your machine, it could be your smartphone, whatever it is, the edge device, through any data center and cloud, and through to integrated systems, right? So between Azure IoT, Arc, and Azure Stack, this is the platform that helps you navigate this complex distributed environment that we have. And one of my favorites from Build is industry clouds, and we announced the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare. And as I mentioned earlier, healthcare is an area of passion for me. I sit on the board of HIMSS India, so we are constantly working on what next for healthcare in India from a technology perspective. And some of the big issues are interoperability. It's about standardization of data and all of those. And that's what this Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare brings to you. You can now take advantage of open source FHIR. FHIR is a standard that for interoperability that is there in healthcare, and everybody uses it. You need a common data model that's allowing you to connect between the provider data, provider is a hospital data, to the payer data, who's the insurance company, and back to the patient. I would have data on maybe pain. I might be tracking the pain I'm going through on my individual mobile app data. How do you bring all this together? Essential to have a common data model. And that's what the industry clouds are doing, starting with the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare. It's very interesting in manufacturing and a few other verticals also. We have some very interesting applications or platforms that are coming up. Do go and check it out. This is another one of my favorites. Now, when you talk about data, and data is fundamental, right? Unless you have your data estate right, you will not go very far with AI. You will not go very far in a structured way with AI. Maybe you can easily create some spot applications, but your overall AI strategy requires a data strategy at the foundation. Now, when you look at it, businesses have two critical yet independent analytic systems. One is the big data lake system where you're doing experimentation, fast exploration, it's semi-structured data, all of that. Or you have relational data, which is proven, dependable, and all your data is in a structured manner sitting there. That's your data warehouse. So clearly, there was this need to bring these two worlds together into a single service, and that's our response to it, Azure Synapse. We call it Azure Synapse Analytics. So this is data warehousing and big data analytics all in one service. It's a phenomenal service, and I'm sure Anupama will talk about it later in her AI updates, but keep a watch on this and start using it. And another one that I love, and this again about unifying stuff, right? Project Cortex. This is your knowledge network. There's a ton of information that you and I have today, everywhere, on the mail, on the chat, maybe a call, it's on Teams, it's on WhatsApp, it's on Slack, it's all over the place. But how do you want to think about it to organize that content and use AI to create innovative experiences? How do you think about it? And that is this Project Cortex that Microsoft has announced. It's about using AI to take all that content that is sitting inside Outlook, SharePoint, Teams, etc., and give intelligent experiences for us as users within those applications of Outlook, SharePoint, and Teams. It's can't wait to see what more US developers will build on top of it. Cutting to another trend, open source software. Used to be that we thought open source was something that open source developers do, and enterprise developers work on enterprise software. The boundaries have blurred. It's no longer there. So 90%, 99% of the large enterprise applications you develop or you do today leverage open source software. So you may call some applications or some functions from here and there, and you may not know how many other open source applications are actually being part of what you're doing. So according to this, 90% of open source code is already existing in all the new code database. Everything that you build is building on top of other things, and a lot of this is on open source. Comes to the fact that open source as a culture is essential within the organizations. And of course, you need, as a developer, you need to contribute to open source projects outside and think about the open source culture inside. GitHub and has come out with a whole host of announcements a little previous to Build. Those were GitHub Mobile, GitHub Actions, GitHub Insights, and so on. It is just taking all the learnings that we have from Azure DevOps and all the learnings GitHub has from the GitHub environment and bringing it together for developers across the world. So there are over 50 million developers on GitHub who are working in enterprises and in open source. And for them, this is like a native DevOps platform. So the interesting piece here that I would urge you to go and check out is Code Spaces. Now, this is phenomenal, right? This is from GitHub or from Visual Studio Code. You can actually, what used to take you maybe hours to create a new developer environment today will take you a few hours or minutes. So those are the changes, and this is a great space for collaboration between developers, whether you're sitting in Chennai or me in Malaysia or someone in US, we can all collaborate and work together very easily and in a secure manner. That's about trends and what comes from the Microsoft Fold, some of the things that I was really excited about. Now I'll spend a little bit on AI AI itself, which is both art and science. You need to put on a different mindset now when you think about AI. A couple of things have changed and AI has come of age because of the compute power, because of the maturity of algorithms that and even quantum inspired algorithms that are now coming up. So the whole AI space has come of age. And let's see how you want to think about it. So I'm going to share some data from a research that we did. This was research on how marketers within organizations or agencies were using technology to get them one of the hardest things done, which is about understanding their customer decision journey and then improving their marketing performance. So this is art and science right here. Understanding the customer decision journey, there's a lot of science in it. If you use AI well and use the data, you can understand the customer journey better in the world today where the journey is no longer a funnel, like they are aware and then they try it and then they buy it. It's no longer like that. The customer journey is all over the place. It's very interconnected. There's a lot of influence from people and decision makers and stuff like that. So it's essential to use technology. While the marketing science side is a lot of art. It is not that if I have to reach 10,000 developers, I do A, B, C. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot of art and science in this whole business. And what we found was when we did a survey across a huge number of customers, we found that about 20% were excellent at both. And this we call the high performers. And the rest of the people are learning. So they are the learners. So the high performers were 2x more likely to use AI technologies than learners. In some sense, it is obvious, right? So what was happening? Strategic benefits. So high performers who are using ML definitely achieved a 2.4x greater sales or revenue lift than opposed to the others who are just learning about it. And on the other hand, when you looked at AI cognitive services, chatbots and digital assistants, a lot of people were using chatbots and digital assistants. But actually the people using AI cognitive services better were the ones who were actually translating that to improved customer engagement. And the difference is humongous. So this just tells you about the need as a developer to think beyond just learning the technology and doing what somebody is telling you. You need to be able to know where is the value lying and hence what I would be learning and hence how can I help, right? But these are very interesting insights, right? To see how cognitive services give such a huge advantage to the companies as well as the benefits that you could gain by using some of this AI. And a stark thing that came out of that research was this huge gap between actions and expectations. So the high performers were obviously gaining a lot of benefit by using AI. But if you look at the learners, and a lot of the organizations are in the learning phase, and you might be in one of the high performer organization or in a learner organization, but this is the time that you can make that difference. In the learner organization, they have 14% AI deployed and 23% are thinking, okay, we will deploy something in the next 12 months. But their expectation is that 75% will create new business, 85% will provide competitive advantage. Obviously, yes, especially in the current scenario, you are thinking of which parts of your stores should you shut down and which stores should you focus on, and things like that require AI and analysis. But they are yet not getting into that journey of trying out, upskilling their people drastically, trying out these things and start using technology. So I want to leave you there with that thought that you can make a difference within your organizations or within your own thing. So start actioning and going faster, increase a pace on how you're learning and increasing use of technology, develop a velocity, right? Now to the last bit, responsible AI. This is a huge component. Just as you have the ability to do a lot of stuff on AI, you have equally an opportunity, a responsibility to make sure that you are at the forefront of doing responsible AI. I'll go very quickly now, but I do want to leave you with a few thoughts here. This is a picture of a woman sitting in an office environment. Typically we are cold. The ACs are always too cold. I don't have a chance to ask you women in the audience, but I have definitely, and many people I've asked to have felt very cold, whether in the office or in the theater or public places. And the reason is that, and when we ask to reduce the coldness, they generally shut down the AC. The reason is that these systems were created early 1900s when ACs were coming up and that whole technology was being built. It was only white Caucasian males who were working on it, and they can tolerate a higher cold. And cut to now, think of this scenario. This is surveillance that is happening on the street in New York. And they are in the US especially, and even in other parts of the world, they're using the surveillance data to determine who is a potential criminal or not. And that determination is being done by seeing who are the network of people in that person's area. And then if they have been in any criminal activity or their next circle is in any criminal activity, then you're considered a potential threat. And guess what was the percentage of people being called in basis this in the US? Yes, it was the African male. And that's why recently you've seen a news announcement on Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon. Everybody has come together and said that we are not going to allow this technology to be used by the government. Brings it back to responsible AI. And Satya says it's the best. He says that we are at that stage where the choices we make are grounded in the fact that technology development doesn't just happen. It happens because us humans make design choices. And that is where it's a responsibility of yours and mine to make sure that we are using responsibility, to make sure that we are participating, whether at a policy making level or at a coding level or a designer level, wherever it is. But we need to know AI, we need to participate, and I would say especially call out to women out there, if we do not participate in this, biases will get baked into the systems. And it's not just women, it's all of us, Indians, Asians, all of us need to be part of this journey. And to help you do that, join the community. This is where Microsoft you can stay in touch with us. You'll get a monthly newsletter with regular updates. Know, learn, grow, all of that with us. And that is it. I will leave with this last thought back to where we started. Think value, know the trends, upskill continuously, and invent with purpose. Thank you.